Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Career Q&A with All Faith Children's Advocacy Center. I am your host, Vanessa Garzone, HR Generalist and Recruiter here at All Faiths. I am here with Donna Lucero, our Director of the Training Institute, and our Director of Marketing and Producer, Regina Alderette. All Faiths has been a part of the Albuquerque community since 1956, growing and changing, but always abiding by our mission that we are the trusted advocates for children and families that have been affected by trauma. I'm proud to say that as an organization, we are constantly evolving and changing with our community's needs, and we have so many wonderful programs. One of the programs that we are spotlighting today is our Training Institute and how we incorporate the Nurtured Heart approach. So to talk to us about this program today, please welcome our Director of the Training Institute, Donna Lucero. Donna, welcome.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So Donna, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time with us. You have been a part of the All Faiths team for quite some time. Talk to me about your journey with All Faiths.
Sure. How much time do you have, right? Because this will take it back to 1992.
Oh, wow.
That's when I first started working at All Faiths when I was in grad school. So I worked at All Faiths when it was still All Faiths Receiving Home a long time ago. And we had residential services then. So I worked in the group home where we worked with kids ages 5 to 12 who were in residential care back in the day. So yeah, I worked there for about 3 years, 92 to 95, while I was getting my graduate degree, which is crazy to think it's like 30 years ago, but it is. Got my graduate degree, and then I actually applied for a position at All Faith as a therapist when I finished, and I got beat out by a psychologist at that time. And I was just fresh out of school, so it makes sense.
Right.
I went to another agency for about 10 years, and then I came back home to All Faiths in 2005.
Okay.
So it'll be 20 years next year that I've been back at All Faiths home. All Faiths is my home. And now I get to spend my time facilitating training and overseeing our training institute, which I'm really passionate about.
Yeah. Wow. 20 years is truly a long time to have you
Mm-hmm.
on board and have you home, as you said.
Yep. Yep.
So as the Training Institute director, and you're an advanced trainer in the Nurtured Heart approach, how
Mm-hmm.
did you get started with the Nurtured Heart?
Oh yeah, nurtured heart. So again, how much time do you have? So this takes us back to probably 2008-ish, 2009, when we just started hearing about the nurtured heart approach, particularly in schools. APS started Albuquerque Public Schools kind of started talking about it. And then we were fortunate to get a grant in 2010 that allowed myself and a colleague to go get the trainer certification. They call it CTI, certified intensive, something like that.
Okay.
CIT. Anyway, if anyone has questions about that, I'm happy to get that information. But CTI, certified training intensive. That's it.
Okay.
So we got that grant funding, and in 2010, myself and my colleague went to Tucson to get certified with Howard Glasser, who's the creator of the Nurtured Heart approach. That was our first training. It was a wonderful experience and caught the bug, like right there, caught the Nurtured Heart bug. And then came back with lots of information, was super excited. Again, that was in 2010. And we kind of, started to take it on as a part of our clinical practice and using it with our kids and families and training internally on it. And then it kind of lost steam, right? We lost a little bit of steam around all of that. Although we were still using it with our kids and families, we had kind of much bigger hopes and aspirations for it. And I still hung on to it. Like I was like, I'm holding on to this. And then right around the pandemic time, there was another kind of resurgence and more grant funding. So I was able to recertify and just had another renewed energy around the Nurtured Heart approach with the person who was then clinical director. And we just started in again, full force, embedding it into our culture. And then, we're continuing to build. And in terms of Nurtured Heart approach in our clinical practice, solid in terms of how we serve our kids and families and the interventions. It's always been, solid. But this time we took it to another level and really started incorporating it into our workplace culture. That was a whole other kind of initiative. And then I found another renewed energy last year with my training partner, Sam Williams, who also is at All Faiths and is a certified trainer. And we have been working really hard to embed it in every aspect of our agency. So it's about ourselves and who we are and how we relate to each other in the workplace and the kind of culture that we want to create. So people like are beaten down the doors to want to work at All Faiths because of the what we call rich time in. That's the environment that we create in our workplace. It's not that we're perfect, but we're definitely a work in progress and truly trying to embed Nurtured Heart approach. So it's been a long journey with Nurtured Heart. And at this point, I'm an advanced trainer, so that's kind of cool too. And I get to share this information with lots of folks.
So getting down to the nitty gritty, talk to me, what is the Nurtured Heart approach about?
Great question, Vanessa. So the Nurtured Heart approach. Now it originated by, as I mentioned before, the creator of the Nurtured Heart approach is Howard Glasser. If anyone is interested in looking into that further, you can go online, you can Google the Nurtured Heart approach and Howard Glasser, or you can talk to me. I'm happy to chat with people further about the Nurtured Heart approach. And the way it came about was kind of twofold. One, it's created really as like a way to support, address intense behaviors in kids. And originally, the original book was called Transforming the Difficult Child. And that's since changed. And instead of difficult, they use the word intense. They're talking about intensity. So that's the way it originated, was really about kids and how we help support kids and manage behaviors and deal with kids that are struggling, right? That's how it started. And it came about because Howard describes himself as an intense child. He had a hard time when he was a kid. And he found that a lot of the conventional methods that we have really didn't meet his needs. Like it didn't mean much to him. It didn't really change his behavior from the inside out. So he grew up and I think he went into like corporate business or some other unrelated field and sort of circled back to the clinical field. And once he started doing work with kids and families and kids with intensity, and he was kind of using these conventional methods that he experienced too, and that you're taught in school, really. And he was finding they weren't working. Like it's not working. We're not getting at the root of how to really tap into who these kids are and how we can best support them. So that's how he created the Nurtured Heart approach. It came from his personal experience and then his clinical experience, and really built it from there. And the Nurtured Heart approach is a way of being. It's about relationships. It's about connection. It's about what Nurtured Heart approach calls inner wealth. So what is our greatness from the inside? How do we build on that? How do we tap into that? So I always tell people the Nurtured Heart approach is really, it's not something you do, it's something that you are, something that you be, right? It's not about doing, it's about being. And once you start to really look at things differently and embrace the approach, you can't unsee it. So it becomes a way of you relating to other people, a way of seeing other people, a way of seeing yourself that is different from the way we typically see each other. And we'll get to the why behind that in a little bit, but that's kind of the foundation of the Nurtured Heart approach. Do you want to go into more details now, or do you want to go
No,
into
I would love to. Let's go
we'll go
ahead.
into the three strands of the Nurtured Heart approach. So the Nurtured Heart approach is really Howard created based on these three strands. And the three strands are integral, right? If you imagine that you have a three-legged table sitting in front of us right here, 3 legs, if you remove any one of those legs, the table's going to fall over, right?
Mhm.
So the Nurtured Heart approach is built on these 3 strands, and all 3 are equally important. And we'll explain why in a little bit. And then how you kind of start using those, we'll explain in a little bit too. So stand 1 is absolutely no. I refuse to energize negativity. I'm not going to reward negativity with the gift that is my relationship, my connection to other people. I'm not going to do it. Like stomp your foot. I am not going to energize negativity, which is different than typical. And we'll get to that in a little bit. And then stand 2 is absolutely yes. I am 100% relentlessly going to energize positivity. And not only am I going to energize it when I see it, I'm going to create opportunities to energize positivity. I'm going to do it all in 100%. And then stand three is absolute clarity. Absolutely clear. I'm going to be 100% clear ahead of the game, ahead of time about my rules, my expectations, my boundaries. 100%. I'm setting the stage way ahead of time so that when a rule is broken, I don't have to put my energy there. It's already set, it's already in place, consequences implemented, and we're done. We move on, right? I don't have to spend any of my energy there, and I can save it all up for stand two, which is all the positive. And as you think about this more and more in these three stands and why it's a way of being, this not only applies to our relationship with kids, like in a clinical sense or in a school or our own kids that we're parenting. This is about relationships in general. And it's a different way of being in relationship because what we typically do for most of our experiences growing up and in our current world is we focus on the negative, right? Usually when you see parents get the most energized, the most activated is when things are going wrong. When a kid breaks a rule or when a kid does something they're not supposed to do. They have done it right 9 out of 10 times. But that 10th time, that's where we're going to put our energy when they do it the way they're not supposed to, or when they break a rule. Or if you think about your spouse, they may do the dishes 5 days out of the week, but what are we going to notice the day they didn't do it? That's where our brain goes right to the negative, right? And that's where we put our energy. Well, you didn't do the dishes. You never do the dishes. Right? And miss out on all the opportunities when most of the time people are doing what we want them to do, what we're supposed to be doing. We just don't pay attention to it. Teachers in a classroom, they may have all their kids in the classroom doing exactly what they're supposed to do, focused, paying attention. Teacher says nothing. But once a kid pokes someone or moves out of their seat or, says a cuss word, boom, we're all in, right? That's where our energetic focus tends to go. This is different, right? We're not going to energize those moments. This doesn't mean we're going to ignore them. We're just not going to put our energy there. We're going to spend all our energy when things are going right, right? And sometimes we're afraid to say anything because we're like, oh no, if I say something, it's going to mess it up. We're all in energizing the positivity.
So those first two stanzas are really about energizing the positive and making sure that we create an intensity around the positive rather than energizing the negative.
Yep, that's it. That's it exactly. 100% exactly.
All right. So what about stand three?
Yeah, stand three is all about that clarity. So, and Brene Brown says clear is kind. I mean, it goes right in with this, right?
I love Brene Brown.
Me too, right? The more clear you can be, the more kind you are. And sometimes we think kind is like being nice, right? And kind of just tiptoeing around what the rule is or when a rule is broken because we want to be nice or polite. That's not what this is about. Clarity is kind. So the clearer you can be about your rules and expectations, the better. That way, when a rule is broken, we don't have to energize it. We don't have to put our energy there. We just implement the consequence, whatever we've set up ahead of time. It's like when you're in a game of basketball. If you're watching a game of basketball or if you play basketball, I'm not a big sporty, but I know a little bit about it. Like when you are going to see a basketball game, the rules are set up way in advance. The spectators know the rules, the players know the rules, the coaches know the rules, everybody knows the rules way in advance. So when the players are playing the game and they break a rule, like they step out of bounds, the referee blows the whistle, other team gets the ball, it's over, and you're right back in the game. That's the kind of clarity. You would never change the rules of a basketball game mid-game or at the beginning of the game say, hey, ref, can we just do it differently this time? Because, we just feel like doing it differently. Let's just make up some rules and see what happens. Everybody's out of there, right? The players, the spectators, nobody wants to play that game. It's not clear. Nobody knows what anybody's doing. So those rules are set up way in advance. That way, when a rule is broken, we don't have to put any energy there. You would never see a referee tell a player, I told you 100 times not to do that. Like, what's wrong with you? Why would you possibly step over the line? Or, oh, you're almost going to step over the line. Watch out. Step over the line, whistle's blown, you're out, other team gets the ball, right back in the game. That's the kind of unenergized consequence that we're looking for with the nurtured heart approach. There's still a consequence, rule is broken, here's the consequence. We're just not going to put our energy there.
So as a director, how these three stances, the absolute yes, absolute no, and the absolute clarity, how do you implement these three approaches in your day-to-day work as a director or here at All Faiths?
Yeah. That's a great question. This is where it moves into like broadening the scope of the nurtured heart approach. Because it's very easy to apply to kids and parenting and teaching and things like that. Makes perfect sense. What does it mean on the daily, right? What does it mean in terms of relationships? And that's where we broaden the scope into our workplace, because we're all in relationship with each other in our workplace. Like you spend 8 hours, 40 hours a week or whatever at work, you develop relationships. It's community. So how do we relate to each other? And part of the nurtured heart approach, I think, that which is so applicable, is it really challenges us to think about how we're going to see things and what we're going to energize, because it's always a choice, right? It's always a choice how we're going to see things and what we're going to energize, and how we create opportunities to energize positivity. So I think this might be a good time to share the example with the dent in the door, because I think it's sort of a daily practice, right? So let me share the screen, and those people that are watching will be able to hopefully relate to this. So let me share this screen with you. And what you should see on your screen is a silver Subaru Ascent. And
nice car.
Thank you. So if I tell folks, I'm like, okay, take a look at this picture, and everyone will look at it, and I'll say, okay, what's the first thing that your eye is drawn to? And people will look at the picture, and 95% of the people that observe this picture will say, I see the dent in the door, right? That little tiny dent in the door right here. And I'm like, okay, exactly. And people will giggle and, kind of laugh about it. I'm like, no, you're exactly right. Our brain as human beings is wired to focus on the negative. That's what we do. We're wired to focus on the negative, no matter what environment you're in, right? If it's a parenting role, or if you're a teacher, or your workplace, we're wired to focus on the negative. And it comes from our evolutionary history as human beings, right? If you were out gathering berries in ancient times and you see something in the corner of your eye move in the grass, you want your brain to think snake, right? It's about survival. We're wired to be primed for danger, right? There's hopefully not a lot of snakes in the grass right now, but we still have that biology, right? It's the way we don't evolve out of that. So we're
looking for those outliers.
Yeah. We're looking for potential threat, danger. What's wrong with this picture, right? So that's why our brain is oftentimes wired to focus on the negative. If you're watching TV or something and you have a little tiny lint on your TV screen, your eye gets focused on the little lint, right? And then you miss out on everything that's the rest of this is what we do. So when I'm showing this picture, I'm like, yeah, your brain focuses in on the dent in the door. However, when we do that, that's all we see is the dent in the door. Now, this picture is of my Subaru Ascent, and it's a long story behind it. I had another vehicle for a really long time, and I dead said I didn't want to get a car payment. I'm not doing it. I'm not buying another car. The joke was, someone was going to have to pick me up at the shop. It's right around the corner from All Faiths. So calls, Donna's going to call someone to pick her up at the shop because the darn Explorer's in the shop. Anyway, I'm not a knucklehead. I knew I was going to have to get another vehicle. And I had my heart set on the Subaru Ascent, the dog commercials, right? With the hot dogs and the car wash and all that stuff, choose the love. So I was like, I'm gonna get my Subaru Ascent. I know I'm gonna do it. And during the pandemic, the time came where I just had to buy another vehicle. But I was excited, right? I had done the specs. I was ready. So I got my Subi. And then about 3 weeks after I got it, I went to the grocery store, shopping, come out of Walmart, and guess what I see? The flippin' dent in the door, right? And that's all I saw. Like I had it 3 weeks. That's all I saw. It's like a centimeter long. It felt like this ginormous, huge thing. I was mad. I don't usually flip my lid, but I did. I was, people can't drive, and what are all these people doing? So all I really saw was that dent in the door. That's it, especially that day. And then I'll tell people, okay, take a look at the picture again. Now what I want you to do is intentionally don't focus on the dent in the door. And then we go through the whole process and people will say, what do you see when you don't focus on the dent in the door? What do you see, Vanessa, when you don't focus on the dent in the door?
Shiny wheels, a
Shiny
new
wheels,
car,
new car.
like it's clean, it's
Mm-hmm.
gorgeous, it's a gorgeous car.
It's a great car, right? People will say, oh, the tinted windows are pretty cool. I think they're legal. I haven't gotten stopped yet. So they're super
Not yet.
dark. The luggage rack, the blue sky, the green trees, you can see a little tiny nip of the mountains through right over the windshield right there. You tell them on the west side, people will say, oh, I think you're at the Verizon, lots of things. That's when we choose not to focus on the dent in the door. All this other opportunity opens up. However, when we only focus on the dent in the door, that's all we see. That's it. That's all we're going to see. And it's always a conscious choice, right? Am I going to focus on the dent in the door? Or am I going to focus my energy, my intention, my intensity, my relationship on all the other opportunity that surrounds it? So it's kind of a constant reminder about reminding ourselves, right? Where am I going to put the gift of my energy? On the dent in the door or everything else outside of that? And it applies to a workplace environment, right? When we're in it, we're doing trauma work at All Faiths. We're in the middle of all of this. And we can't ignore it, right? Like I can't ignore that dent in the door. It's still there. I kept it for this reason, to remind me of where am I going to put my energy, right? I'm not ignoring it. It's there. However, it's all about that choice of where I'm going to put my energy. Because if I only put my energy on the dent in the door, I miss out on all that other opportunity. It's about perspective also, and choice. So I think that's one kind of tidbit, sort of, that when you think about how you apply it in the workplace environment, it's about relationship. It's about connection. Whether you're a supervisor level or a coworker or fill in the blank, right? How are we going to choose to see things, and where are we going to choose to put our energy?
Right. I love how that phrase that you used, the gift of my energy. And that's what it is. Your energy is a gift. It's something that you have to hold on to, that is very, very precious,
Right.
very much so. And you have to be able to allot it in small amounts.
And receive it, right? It's about both the giving and the receiving, because that's what we're doing all day, every day, is sort of giving each other this gift of us, in relationship, whether it's in a workplace or at home, doesn't matter. The gift of us in all of that. So being able to give and receive. And that's an important part of the nurtured heart approach, because a lot of what we do is, the way we give our energy is these recognitions. And there's a number of types of recognitions that the nurtured heart approach offers, but it's really about seeing the people that you're in relationship with, and then identifying what you see, what you hear, what you notice, and what that says about them. So Vanessa, I see how intently you're listening to what we're talking about and how you're just soaking it all in. And that tells me that you are, number one, all in about recruitment and getting people in All Faiths and embracing the nurtured heart approach, and finding people that just are beating down the door, and how invested you are in what we do and our commitment to the community. That's what it tells me about how all in you are. And the thing about nurtured heart is you can't fake it, right? If you're going to tell someone something and recognize that, it's got to be real. So everything that I'm telling you that I see is real, and I see it, and then sharing what that says about you. That's the power of the nurtured heart approach.
So do you mind? Like, let's practice that. Those
Yeah, let's do
recognitions
it.
are so important, especially in a workplace. So let's practice really quick. So, Donna, I see how passionately you speak. You speak so passionately and so vivaciously about the nurtured heart approach and about all faiths. You really show that in everything you do. And I know that it really makes you a passionate member. And I can see that as a director in training. It shows in everything that you do and are. How was
Awesome.
that?
It's fabulous, right? It's fabulous. And the cool thing about the nurtured heart approach is thank you, by the way, it'll offer, thank you for seeing that. It will offer these little formulas of how to do these recognitions. But the cool thing is the more you practice, you make it your own, right? You don't have to follow the formula. As long as you are talking about what you see, what you hear, what you notice about someone, however you do that, and then what it says about them, you've got a recognition. So you did it beautifully. And the cool thing about this is the more you practice, the more comfortable you get saying them, and the more comfortable you get receiving them.
So Donna, these active recognitions, how would you reflect, how would you reflect these in the workplace? And what is the importance of using these active recognitions in the workplace?
Yeah, yeah. So the recognitions, it's all about timing and relationship and connection. All of that is important. So, and they may sound a little bit different with kids than they would adults too. So you kind of want to be thoughtful about how you say them and how you use them. But the power of the recognition, whether it's an active recognition, an experiential recognition, a proactive recognition, or a creative recognition, those are the four types. The power of those is that it's all about being seen, being heard, being validated, and then being recognized for what we call irrefutable evidence. What is happening in the moment that is a reflection of greatness in that individual? Because we tend to focus on the negative, right? We just did the whole dent in the door thing. We oftentimes don't spend a lot of time thinking about the greatness that 99% of the time is happening. So the recognitions focus us in on I see, I hear, I notice, which validates the person in the moment. And here's what I see, and here's what it says about you. So if, as an example, if you're in a workplace and you see someone say, hey, I saw that, you had a ton of paperwork due, a ton. And I saw that you worked over your shift yesterday to get your paperwork done. Man, I appreciate that because that says you are dedicated and committed to following through with the expectations, and you're dedicated to making sure your client files are up to date and pristine, right? That's your dedication and your commitment to your clients, and I so appreciate that. So that is an example of an experiential recognition where here's what I saw, and here's what it says about you. And it's irrefutable because that person is not going to say, no, I didn't do that. Yeah, that wasn't me. I didn't stay late last night, right? It's irrefutable because it's happening in the moment. And then you're able to build from the inside out. And in a workplace, how many times staff get everything done, right? And nobody says anything. And it's not until there's a problem that we plug right in, right? So we don't want to do that. We don't want to wait till there's a problem. We want to be energizing all the way through and creating this workplace environment where people are getting recognized and filled up in the context of relationship, which is more powerful reward than anything, right? That's the most valuable reward.
So something that I always remember about you, Donna, is when I did my first nurtured heart training with you. And we talked about external intensity and we talked about internal intensity. And so I genuinely think a lot about those experiential recognitions for people with internal intensity who don't necessarily express that they are looking for a promotion or are really just consistently doing well and deserve that kind of energy in order to be recognized that they are doing well and they're consistently doing well and they're consistently doing the expectation rather than energizing constantly the negative. So that was one thing that I really took away from your nurtured heart training back a way ago.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah, you're right on the money. The internal intensity can look all sorts of ways depending on the individual. In some settings, you might have a more outward intensity. In some settings, it might be more inward. I tend to be a more inward intensity person where it's Like I will kind of think deeply about things, and sometimes it shows in my face. I have to fix my face a lot because it's like it shows in my face. That's an inner intensity where I have big feelings and strong reactions, but I don't necessarily, kind of let them out in that external sort of way. I'll mull it over and think about it and process it and then figure out what to do with it. It's still intensity, right? So my career, I've been the kind of person that I got my job done, I did my task, I did what I was supposed to do. And you kind of flow through those without, like you said, nobody notices, right? You're just doing your job. That's what you're supposed to be doing. How valuable it would be if we could flip that, right? And really recognize people all in, stand to, when they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and getting it done and following through with tasks. And when a rule is broken, we don't even have to put our energy there, right? Because we're setting up our expectations in advance. So we can still energize and recognize people when they're 99% of the time they're doing what they're supposed to be doing or what the job expectations are, or whatever it might be. So that inward and outward intensity is really important. And I think a lot of times too, what we miss with the inward intensity is we don't always hear the staff, their voices. Those staff tend to be quieter, or, they don't rock the boat, or, they don't shake things up. It's not, and shaking it up is great, but it's also important to hear the voices of the people that are on the more internal side, and valuing that and recognizing that as, I think, hugely important as well. So you bring up a great point around all of that.
All right. So, Donna, can you provide insight into applying nurtured heart in various settings? So we talked about work. How about schools and homes or in therapeutic environments?
Yeah. So I think one way to think about this is, again, it's all about how we're going to choose to see things, no matter what your environment is. If you're with your spouse or your own kids or in the workplace, how are we choosing where we're going to put our energy? And then how are we choosing to look at things? And creating those opportunities to energize greatness. And I have another gadget that I think will illustrate that if you're up for the checking out the dinosaur that is this little gadget right here.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that sucker. This is the dinosaur. This was actually a gift. I was training in a school in Santa Fe, and I was like, oh man, I wish I had one of these for this metaphor for the nurture heart approach. And they're like, wait a minute. It was an old school too. Like, wait a minute, we got one of those. I think they probably unscrewed it and everything and gave it to me. So here's an example, like on the daily, how we can really choose to look at things. Because Nurtured Heart talks about miracle in the molecules. Like there's always something positive to energize, always. Sometimes we have to look a little harder, depending on the circumstances, but there's always something positive that we can energize, where we can go all in, stand to. And here's the example. So those of you probably remember back in the day, you're in elementary school. This is how you sharpened a pencil. Go figure. And where, if you remember, Vanessa, where were these usually located in the classroom?
All the way at the front, like either next to the door or next to the teacher.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's either all the way in the back of the classroom or all the way in the front of the classroom. Either way, you had to go in front of everyone to get your pencil sharpened. That's usually the location. So imagine that you are in your 4th grade classroom. And Vanessa, you're taking a spelling test and your pencil breaks. Now I would like for you to think about all the skills, all the characteristics, all the qualities that would be necessary, that would be required for you to get your pencil sharpened. Just break it down, right? Using this little gadget. What do you think?
Well, I definitely have to get up. I have to walk to the front. I know there's going to be a million eyes on me, what feels like a million eyes on me. Oh my gosh, that thing is so loud too. Like if somebody wasn't looking, they're definitely looking now.
Yep. Would you call that courage? Might you
Yeah.
consider that you walking in front of everyone thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to look at my butt. What am I wearing today? Like, how's my hair look in the back? Like all of these things are going to come up, and you could easily not sharpen your pencil. So the fact that you get up through all of that is a reflection of courage, right? That you're doing it, even motivation. You have to have some level of motivation to even consider, yeah, I kind of want to finish this test. I better get up and sharpen my pencil. If you didn't care about the test, you didn't care about school, you're not going to sharpen your pencil. So courage, motivation, insight to recognize that your pencil is dull, right? I've got to do something about that. There's some physical ability involved in this that you've got to, you got to change the whole, and it would always break, right? And then you got to keep putting it back in. Might you consider that's persistence? That you keep putting it, fixing it, getting it right? Attention to detail, that you want it a certain way, right? Even when it's in the nub and you continue to do it, you're persistent, right? So these are all the qualities that we don't, and there's more, right? We don't really think about even in something as simple as a child getting up to sharpen their pencil. We just think, oh, sharpen your pencil, what's the big deal? It is a big deal. And it is a reflection of so much inner greatness, inner wealth, so many strengths that we miss the opportunity to recognize. One, because we're moving so fast, right? And two, the minute the kid pokes someone with the pencil or touches someone on their way to the pencil sharpener, or they're disruptive on the way to the pencil sharpener, we're all in, right? We're right there hooked in, but we miss all the opportunities that lead up to someone doing such a simple task. And that applies to the workplace. Think about all the tasks involved in our daily jobs, right? And all that is required for us to be able to fulfill those tasks. It comes from the inside. The fact that you show up to work every day, it's not just about the paycheck, right? And even if it is, the fact that you need your paycheck to take care of your family, that means you're committed to your family. The fact that you're showing up even when we're doing hard work is a reflection of your dedication, your motivation, your relentlessness. There's so many qualities that we kind of fail to recognize, even with, getting up in the morning. You could choose to stay in bed, but we get up, right? And the nurtured heart really helps us reflect on that and then recognize it.
Those million little things that truly just make a difference.
There's a million if we're paying attention. And that's where that energetic choice is. What are we going to choose to energize? Where are we going to focus our energy?
1, 2, 3. Okay, so Donna, as a trauma-informed organization, where do you see the value in Nurtured Heart?
I think it is inherent in all of it, because being trauma-informed, being trauma-sensitive is all about relationship. It's all about presence in the moment. It's all about, I see you, I regulate you, right? Understanding, empathy, recognizing the impact of trauma. That's all about relationship. And Nurtured Heart is inherently relationally based. That's what it all is, right? It's about a way of being, about a way of relating, a way of connecting. So the two fit together like peas and carrots, seriously, because of that relational component. And really understanding, recognizing, especially when we're thinking about trauma, we know when kids or adults, whoever it is, are experiencing this trauma response, it's reflected in their behavior. And part of what we talk about with a trauma-sensitive approach is using our trauma-sensitive lenses. And instead of thinking, what's wrong with this kid, the question becomes, wow, what may have happened to influence this behavior? It's a deeper way of understanding, a deeper way of connecting, a deeper way of being in relationship with, and we also know that relationships are how we heal in the context of connection with other human beings. So you put Nurtured Heart and a trauma-sensitive approach together. It really is the trauma-sensitive approach is really the what, and Nurtured Heart is a part of the how we relate, how we connect. So they fit together beautifully.
So talking about recruitment within all faiths, Donna, those million little things that you talked about really are being implemented in how we look at our recruitment process. So we really started implementing the Nurtured Heart approach in our practice by recruiting with kindness. And that's the modality that we use by offering absolute clarity. We use up-to-date job descriptions, making sure that we have that clarity with our applicants of what is our process? When do you expect to hear from us? 2 to 3 business days. And it's updating everybody in that timely manner, whether it is an acceptance or that declination. And that absolute clarity, as you said, clear is kind. And so it's also assuming positive intention. So when life happens and maybe somebody misses their interview, we actually reach back out to them and say, hey, do you want to reschedule? Because we don't know what happened. It could be they got into an accident on the way over, and a family emergency. All of these things, we want to be able to put the candidate's perspective in line with our recruitment, because we are looking for people who have passion, purpose, and a working understanding of what is their why. Why do they keep coming back? Why do they do what they do? Why do they have their career? And so because we want people who have those 3 things, we are also going to be able to recruit with kindness where we are moving with our candidates. And it's those million little things. And that's how I really love the nurtured heart approach.
Me too. And the million little things I think is so critical, because it's all these moving parts, right? And it's all important. They're not kind of minimal or things that you just dismiss, right? All of these little things are meaningful and important and could literally make a huge difference in who comes on board and who doesn't, right? And the kind of just those little tiny things are so valuable. So I love how you all are fitting that together in the recruitment process.
Absolutely. All right. So Donna, we're going to actually go into a couple of questions from the audience about our nurtured heart approach. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Question number 1. I am a first responder. Can the nurtured heart approach help me in my profession?
Absolutely. And I think when I think first responders, I think crisis, right? They are first handling what a whole variety of types of crisis. And one of the things that I use the nurtured heart for in a crisis situation would be those active recognitions. Now, an active recognition is where basically you're just narrating what's happening. That's all it is. It's sort of the foundation, like, Vanessa, I saw you nod your head. That's an active recognition, right? And
Right.
people might think, oh, that's weird. Why am I telling people what I see? Well, number one, we all want to be seen. We all want to be heard. We all want to be validated. So that's just sending the message that I see you. I got you, right? I'm here with you. And I think that is a very valuable tool in a crisis situation. First responder, any type of crisis really, is with an individual who's in crisis, it is invaluable to recognize that you see them. I'm with you. I'm here, right? And that can regulate us right from the get-go. Just human connection, human contact, somebody's with me, somebody's got me. So I've used active recognitions lots in crisis situations with kids, adults, something as simple as saying, wow, I see how upset you are. I see that this is really, you're really angry about this. I saw you take a breath, right? All of those things as a first responder. I see that you're scared, right? I see how unfamiliar all of this is to you. I'm here with you, right? All of those can be very valuable in those crisis situations. And we just got to be paying attention, right? And first responders got to move like this, right? They're moving very quickly, but taking that second to just say, I got you, I'm here, right? Can be extremely powerful, and it's regulating for us too. It helps ground that individual, that first responder in the moment. So in and of itself, just that active recognition can be really powerful for a first responder.
So, second question from our viewers. As a provider in behavioral health, how can the nurtured heart improve outcomes for my clients?
And these are all going to be similar answers, right? When people ask these questions, because it's so relationally based. So the nurtured heart, and we've been using the nurtured heart approach in a clinical realm with our kids and families for a very long time. So what this helps it do is really enhance relationships, ultimately, where you're thinking about parents and children, or even in school settings. It's about enhancing relationships and being in relationship differently. and in a way that's not focused on the negative, because we're good at that already. We don't need any practice at that. What we need practice at is being in relationship where we're focused on the positive. And, when we think about kids and families that come to All Faiths, obviously bad things have happened and we're not going to ignore that. We need to address that. We're working with trauma, but it's also about helping kids and their caregivers heal in the context of relationship. And we know the way we heal from trauma is relationship. It's connection. That's our superpower, is our ability to connect. And we know, in fact, that your history of adversity, your history of connection, relationship with other human beings is a better predictor of your health than your history of adversity. So you can experience lots of adversity in your life, but if you have a solid level of quality connection to another human being, to community, you can actually buffer adversity. So in building relationships in the context of the nurtured heart approach, that's a way to do it. We can help buffer adversity by enhancing relationships between our kids that we serve and their caregivers, by enhancing relationships between the therapist and the clients that they serve, by enhancing relationships between our community workers and the kids they visit in their homes or in their schools, by enhancing relationships between us as providers and the caregivers of the kids that we serve, and by enhancing the relationships of us as a workplace environment. We help buffer adversity.
So we have a lot of children and families that come to All Faiths that experience quite a bit of adversity. So from your perspective, how does the nurtured heart approach really buffer that adversity and really be able to support that?
Yeah. So again, nurtured heart approach is about relationships, right? And we know that relationships, connectedness can help buffer adversity. I think when you think about connectedness, and there's lots of research around resilience that talks about, hey, you can have, lots of adversity in your life, but if there's one adult that is connected, is in your corner, like that is unconditional, right? I think you walk on water because because you're you, right? It's unconditional. That can make a world of difference in terms of the outcomes for that particular individual. And we're not born resilient. We build resilience based on our experiences. And resilience comes in the context of relationships, right? And nurtured heart approach is about enhancing relationships, building from the inside out. So maybe you're a therapist and you're working with a young person who has lots of adversity in their life. You're able to be the nurtured heart approach with this individual. You could be the one, right? You could be the one that creates that opportunity for resilience. You could be the one when they look back, they're like, yeah, I had that cool therapist. And she saw stuff about me I didn't even know, right? 5, 10, 15 years down the road, we may never know, you may never know that you changed their life, but in the context of relationship and how you connected with them, and nurtured heart approach is the how, right? How you connect with them, you could literally change the trajectory of their life. They call it the butterfly effect, which is like a scientific thing about weather and stuff like that. But the bottom line is that relationships, connection can literally change someone's life. Little tiny, like we talk about the million little things, right? Those little miracles in the molecules can make a huge difference in changing outcomes. So whether you work at the front desk of our agency, or whether you're a therapist, or whether you're fill in the blank, right? Whatever it is that you do, or you do what I do, we could literally change lives in these little connections, these little deposits that we make in each other's relationship bank account. And the nurtured heart approach is the how. It's a way to do that by seeing people from the inside out, recognizing it, offering that irrefutable evidence. Is here's what I see about you. And here's how wonderful here is your awesomeness that is you. And it's just continual deposits in those relationship bank accounts that help literally have the potential to buffer adversity.
Donna, I remember when I first took your nurtured heart approach course, and one of the things that stuck with me is the way that you talk about vicarious trauma. The metaphor that you used is that you said vicarious trauma is like a swimming pool. that some people are really entrenched. Some people are in the deep end. Our therapists are very much in the deep end. And like myself, I'm in HR, but I'm in the shallow end. But at the end of the day, we're all exposed to that trauma. And so it's an open conversation that we have here at All Faiths, right? That vicarious trauma.
So yeah, the quote comes from an old mental health first aid, and it talks about how it's an unrealistic expectation to think that you're going to walk through water and not get wet. Just it's an unreal expectation to think that you're going to be swimming in trauma and adversity and not be impacted by it. We're all jumping in, we're all going to get wet. So the key becomes, it's not about trying to figure out how do I not get wet, because that's unrealistic. You can jump into a pool, you're going to get wet. It's going to happen at varying degrees, depending on all sorts of variables, but recognizing we're going to get wet. Even if we're damp, right? We're not soaked, we're damp, we're going to get wet. So the key becomes, how do we dry off? And creating a workplace environment where we encourage people to dry off, which is self-care. It's taking good care of yourself on the daily. And it's not like, when we talk about self-care, we'll say, oh, I'm going to get a massage, or I'm going to get a pedicure, all that. That's great. It's fantastic. But can you get a massage every day? Not unless you're, J-Lo. You're not going to get a massage every day. So what do you do on the daily to dry off? And that's what we encourage our staff to do, is to really think about what are the little things that you do on the daily to take good care of yourself so that you're ready to jump in the pool the next day, right? And then you're ready to dry off once you get out, which is hugely important, because we can't give what we don't have, right? We have to be able to fill up our own backpack or our cup or whatever metaphor you want to use, so that we have it to give to the people that we serve. And we also help fill up each other's cup, right? In a workplace environment, creating the culture where people are recognized and seen and validated and valued. That is also filling up all of our backpacks. So we have more to give and to consistently give to the people that we serve.
Absolutely. And as an organization, we really try to have those pieces in place to make sure that we offer people those self-care, whether that's our EAP, our employee assistance program, where if somebody has a hard day and they need someone to talk to, it's free for all of our employees, whether they're full-time or part-time, and everybody in their household. We also have 3 PTO banks. So we have sick, vacation, but what's really cool is that we actually have 2 DEI/wellness days that are use it or lose it. And we definitely encourage people to use it if they need that mental health day, because it's so needed. And it's just that open conversation, just being transparent that vicarious trauma happens, that sometimes we need a mental health day, and having those really clear-cut conversations really help us as an organization in order to build those relationships, as you said.
Yep, absolutely. Agreed.
So Donna, if as we're closing up here, let's say somebody's watching this and they are interested in their organization getting certified in Nurtured Heart, how would they go about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if someone wants to actually be a certified trainer, like me, an advanced trainer, certified trainer, you've got to do that through the Nurtured Heart Institute. So you can Google them and if you want to become a trainer. But if you want to do a Nurtured Heart training and learn about the approach and how to implement it in your life, you don't want to teach it to other people like formally, then I'm your person, right? So we can totally make that happen, among many other trainings. So the Training Institute offers all sorts of trainings, and we can hook people up with a brochure and some information about the different types of training. But if you want, Nurtured Heart or information about trauma, you can email me at dlucero@allface.org, or you can email training@allface.org. Either way, it'll get to me. And just inquire. And I'm happy to talk it out if you want me to come to your organization or your school or whatever. I was just at a school this morning. I'm happy to do that. Absolutely. There are also opportunities for some free community trainings, which are posted on our website, allface.org, under community events. If you click community events, there's a little drop down, and you'll be able to see some trainings that we are able to offer free to the community based on some grant funding that we get from Children, Youth, and Families Department. So that's kind of cool. There's some coming up in the next few months. They're virtual. They're free. Click the link, register, and I'm happy to see folks join those trainings.
That's awesome. So our live does not end here. We will be joining Highlands University for their career day on Saturday, March 23rd at Hotel Albuquerque. We also will be at Employment Extravaganza at NMSU on March 19th. So feel free to join us for those two events. We would be happy to see anybody who has any questions about joining our team or learning more about All Faiths and how we can help everybody in the community. If you are interested in your trainings for your organizations, we will provide training information in the comments, and also feel free to reach out to Donna at dlucero@allfaiths.org or at training@allfaiths.org. And Donna would be happy to reach out. We are always looking to hire more talent. If this seems to be something that you want to do, or if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to our website at www.allfaiths.org or send us an email at hr@allfaiths.org, and keep a sharp eye on our Facebook postings. And finally, a special thanks to our Director of Marketing and our producer, Regina Alderette. Without her brilliance and collaboration, none of this would be possible. So thank you so much for joining us, Donna. Thank you for your time, your attention, your brilliance, and your expertise in talking to us today. See you guys next time, and see you on Career Q&A with All Faiths.